Hey guys, today we're going to talk about tubeless. We're going to talk about things that you need for tubeless that you might not need for just a normal tube. We're going to talk about the difference between tubeless and tubes. The first thing to jump into is that a normal tube is exactly as the name would state. We just have a tube put inside the tire, between the tire and the rim, and that's what's obviously keeping it all inflated. Tubeless, however, has no tube because it is tubeless. We still have the valve that will still poke through the rim there as well, but instead of having a tube, we replace it with some sealant. The sealant will wash around inside the tire, and if we were to get a thorn that goes into the tube and comes back out, hopefully this nice thick sort of gooey sealant can clog up the hole from the inside rather than puncturing the tube that we had in there initially. Puncture resistance. It's not going to completely stop it, but it's going to give you your best chance if you do run over a thorn. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some pros and cons of the tubeless. The puncture resistance that you get with tubeless is amazing. If you were to get a thorn that goes into the tire, pierces through the tire, falls back out, the tubeless sealant that we've got sloshing around in there should clog up the hole from the inside and repair it while you're riding. You shouldn't even need to pull over. It's quite amazing like that. Another type of flat tire that we can get could be a pinch flat. A pinch flat happens when the rim and the tire pinch the tube that's in there. That could happen because you've hit a rock or a curb or a pothole or something quite hard, and it actually pinches the tube in there. If it is tubeless, there is no tube to pinch, which means we can run a nice low and comfortable tire pressure without having to worry about a pinch flat. So thorn resistance or puncture resistance in general, and you can't pinch flat. They're two of the good benefits with tubeless. We can talk quickly about the cons with tubeless as well. I suppose the things that are bad about tubeless. One thing is that you do have to stay on top of it. You'll have to replace, or I suppose add to your sealant that's sitting in the tire once every maybe 3 to 6 months, which I know is quite a large range. If you're riding every day and the wheels are always moving, you might have to do it every 3 months. But if you're only touching your bike, once a weekend, you might only have to do it every 6 months, for example. But you will have to top up the sealant. If you're unlucky enough to get a big slice through the tire, you will have to replace the entire tire. You can't replace just the tube to get you out. You will have to replace the whole tire because the tubeless sealant is quite thin and it will only be able to clog up a small hole, not a massive slice in the tire. So a con could be that the tires are sometimes a little bit more expensive, and if you were unlucky enough to get a dramatic flat tire, you might need to replace the tire as well. But the other con that scares a lot of people away from tubeless is that it can be messy to set up. But today, hopefully we can run through how to make it slightly less messy and have the best chance to really seat that tire as well. So let's dive straight into it. So what do we actually need to set it up tubeless? We need 4 things. We need tubeless ready tires, which will always say somewhere on the packaging, whether it's a tubeless ready or a TLR or a something along those lines. We need a tubeless ready tire. We need tubeless valves and tubeless rim tape, which is slightly different to just normal rim tape. It's a bit more plasticky and it won't allow the liquid to soak through. So valves and rim tape, and then we'll need special tubeless sealant as well, which is thicker than water, but not quite as thick as like a yogurt. It's just a slightly thicker consistency, so it can clog up the hole from the inside of the tire. So we'll need those 4 things: tires, valves, rim tape, and sealant. Let's talk about the steps with tubeless. I suppose the first one is obviously to take that wheel off, whether it's the front one or the rear one. We'll take the wheel out of the bike. You'll have to deflate the tire. This one, we're going to reuse this tire. If you're putting a new tire on, obviously that's one of the things you'll need to do. So we're going to grab our tire lever tool, and we're just going to take half of the bead off only on one side. We're not going to bother with the other just yet. So with our trusty little tire lever, we'll reach in there, we'll touch the rim tape, and then we'll lever the tire out, and we'll do one full lap around the tire. And now we can see that half of the bead is sitting off of the rim. We're pretty lucky actually with this bike here that it's already been set up tubeless, so all we're doing is adding sealant. Nonetheless, the same rules still apply, that you'll need to have the tubeless tape on there, which will do at least one full lap around the rim, and then you'll poke the tubeless valve straight through the rim tape where the valve hole obviously is. This one already has one on there, we're quite lucky. we're gonna grab our bottle of sealant as well. There's different measurements about how much sealant you should use as well. I think we can even just try and put a rough idea of what we'll need on the side of the screen here for how much sealant you'll need for maybe like a road bike or a mountain bike or a gravel bike. But there's different amounts of sealant for different size tires, I suppose. In this one, it's a relatively skinny tire, a gravel bike tire. So we're only gonna put in a small amount. There's different ways we can do this. I've chosen to take half of the tire off of the rim here, and all I'm gonna do is just squirt a little bit of sealant straight into the rim. Once we've added sealant in, we just want to carefully, because it can be a little bit messy, we want to carefully try and get the tire over and onto the rim. Now again, there's obviously some sealant sloshing around in the bottom, so we don't want to get that all over the carpet or the garage floor or anything like that. We're just trying to be very delicate and careful. Since there's no tube in there, because we are obviously tubeless, it should be hopefully even easier to push it straight onto the side of the tire. That one just slipped on and it had a bit of almost like a lubricant from the sealant as well. So you should be able to push that on both sides. If you're struggling and it's getting really tight near the end and you've got, a section from here to here that it's not pushing over, maybe go around to completely opposite of where that is and just push it into the middle of the bead all the way around to give yourself the best chance. Once you've got the tire on, the next step is to pump it up. Unfortunately, this is where it can sometimes get a little bit more difficult because we have to get the air in there so quickly before it seeps out from the side of the tire, because there is no, it's not being encased inside of a tube. It now wants to leak out into the open air, I suppose. So using our floor pump, sometimes you can put the pump on there and try and pump really quickly, and then you might be able to get it with a little hand pump. It's very difficult to get enough pressure quickly enough. Floor pump is your best chance at home, but because I'm a bike shop, I cheat. And I have this special pump here that I pump the air straight into this canister here, and it fills it up almost like a compressor. Actually, good point. If you have a compressor at home, this is an excellent time to turn it on so you can use it. I'm going to pump the air. I've now pumped it so that this canister here is completely full. And I'm going to put the pump head onto the tube, nice and hard. And then hopefully it can go up first time. Sometimes as you let the air in, the air will seep up, but it won't actually go into the tire. It'll leak out, through the side where the bead was. So I suppose there's a couple of tricks that you can try with that. You could try maybe holding a little bit of pressure on it in sort of as many spots as you can, I suppose. Maybe like up against your leg, maybe your friend's hands can hold it or something like that. Another trick that I've learned as well is if the tire is really loose, which I can already feel that this one is, sometimes it might be easier if before I put the sealant in, I put a tube in there, an old tube, and pumped it all the way up so that the tire beads on one side of the wheel, and then I can use my tire lever, open up one side, take the tube out, but it's still beaded on one side of the tire. So that we've got I'm gonna say that's like a 50% easier chance of getting the tire on there, because right now, air can leak out from this side, but it can also leak out from this side. So I don't think we're gonna get this one straight away, but we'll still try it anyway. And we'll just let the air in. Nah, okay. Sweet, so I've got a backup plan for this one. We're gonna use our valve core remover tool. And we'll take this valve core all the way out. My fingers are quite slippery because I've got sealant all over them. That goes back to one of the cons I was saying, that it can be a bit messy as well. Unscrew that valve core the whole way. And at the moment, if we look right there, we can see that there's no valve core in there, which means that the cylinder through here is completely hollow. When we pump the air into the valve, it's not trying to push past this valve core. It's just got a perfectly clear hollow cylinder to pump straight through. All right, pump on. Here you go. Ah, got it. Excellent. Now, as I take this off, I'm gonna quickly try and cover it with my finger so that I can get that valve core back on there. Got it. Now the tyre is on there, but I haven't set it up to pressure. All I've done is seated the tyre. So now we'll grab our normal pump or whatever it is that you do to set your pressure, and now we're going to set it to our desired pressure. About 50 will do for now, I reckon. One of the very early things that I said about the cons is that it can be a bit messy. So we've got some tubeless sealant scattered across the rim here. All I'm doing is I'm just going to wipe it away. Because we've got the sealant sloshing around inside there, we're just going to put the wheel back into the bike. And I'm just going to spin it so that the sealant can wash around and find its way to wherever it needs to go, all through the tyre, all through the rim tape, all through the wheel, wherever it needs to go. I'm spinning it on purpose so that it can do its thing, I suppose, do its tubeless thing. As you saw there, it doesn't go perfectly every time. Have the kettle ready if you need to just go and just gather your thoughts, catch your breath. You might be doing quite a lot of pumping, which can get quite tiring as well. Budget for more time than what you think you need. Sometimes these jobs just don't go perfectly, but if you bring it into our bike shop here at Recycle Bicycle Sales, we'd be more than happy to help out. We've got the nice powerful pump here that can help out. Thank you for watching our video. Hopefully you've learned a couple of things. You know the different parts that you need, the tyres, the valves, the rim tape, the sealant. You know that if you get a puncture on a tubeless tyre, sometimes you will need to replace the entire tyre. We know that hopefully if you were to get a puncture, it can fix it while you're riding. Hopefully you've learned a whole mountain of knowledge now and you can give it a try yourself. So otherwise, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.